Thanks everyone for joining. My name's Edoardo. I'm here from Meta, and we're going to talk to you about Rapid Editor today. I work on Meta's mapping strategy on the community-facing side, and we use open map data as a pretty critical part of our map building process. And so I have the fun of working with a lot of different groups around the world that are contributing open map data, thinking about how to use map data in various ways. And then we have various tools to leverage map data to build out our mapping products, which we'll talk about in a second. And I'll pass it over to Chris to introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Chris. I work as a data analyst with map data at Meta. So mainly looking at how to take tools like street level imagery from Mapillary, OpenStreetMap data, and various other open data sources, and put that to use in improving maps of the world through OpenStreetMap. So ideally helping make sure that everywhere in the world is mapped and that users have great tools to map the world with.
And thanks again to Geoawesomeness for putting on this great event. As Mutu mentioned, we've been talking to the Geoawesomeness group team for many years. We've written some posts for Geoawesomeness. We've read a lot of their articles, and it's a really good community, a really good platform for geospatial knowledge on all sorts of topics. And we're very grateful to have them putting together this event and for you guys all for joining. So let's get into it. Before we proceed, I'd love it if you could drop in the chat. I know you've already been mentioning your name, but would love to know why you're here in particular interested about Rapid Editor and OpenStreetMap. And if you're representing an organization, you could drop that in the chat as well. If you're here in your own personal capacity, that's really cool as well. But we just want to know, what is it that connects you with OpenStreetMap? Maybe you have a good idea already, maybe you don't, and that's what today is about. But that'll really help us tailor this session and then any future contact that we have as well, so we can give you any answers that you seek. I'm going to preempt a few questions here about why you're here and maybe some of the things that you're thinking about. One of which is why is Meta giving a presentation about Rapid Editor? And we're going to speak about that. A second might be, why is Meta concerned with OpenStreetMap and involved in OpenStreetMap? And that's what I want to cover a bit now. So Meta, I think you're very familiar with a lot of our products. We have WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. Map data is a very essential part of all of these. And whether you're looking at Facebook pages where the location of a business could be very important, or Instagram discovery, which is a new feature which you can enable by searching for a place where a map pops up, or getting recommendations nearby. The location of the place itself, or just having a base map where you know what's around you, is very important. And Meta, of course, is using a lot of OpenStreetMap data to provide these services. And in fact, a lot of the vast majority of the data that you see here is powered by OpenStreetMap. Another example, very relevant recently, is crisis response, to see that the people around you are safe, or the people that you care about and connected with on Facebook are safe. And this is another example of map data in action, particularly in Morocco and Libya, unfortunately, recently. And then the WhatsApp Business Directory, which is a really cool tool that's been rolled out in a few countries, Brazil being one of them, where you can find businesses nearby, let's say a hairdresser or a doctor, and you can communicate with them on WhatsApp and very quickly get an appointment or find out what services they offer. So map data is like really important in all of these things. And we want to make sure that our maps represent the incredible diversity of the planet, all the countries that exist, all the different map features that people might care about. And open data is a really, really powerful way to deliver that, and a key part of our strategy in building great maps. I mentioned the family of apps, which is WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook, but we're also really excited about the future of maps and the products that we could build that leverage map data. And augmented reality as a technology is one example of this. So if you look at this little video, you'll see someone walking and they have map data overlaid around them. So it could be objects nearby them, obviously, but it also things like the wait time at a restaurant, what cuisine that is, if there's reviews of that restaurant, It's really about local discovery and finding out what's around you. And we're working with groups around the world to build out the map using tools like Graph Editor, in part to power the family of apps experiences I mentioned, but also these new experiences that we're working on for the future with augmented reality. So maps and the physical world are becoming more intertwined. It's been really exciting over the last 15 years, 20 years in geospatial. It's really been a golden age because we've had the smartphone enable all new experiences. Uber's a classic example of this, of a service that would have been much harder pre-mobile and pre-mobile maps, digital maps. That's just going to continue to proliferate. We're going to see a whole bunch of new experiences as augmented reality devices come online. And we're really thinking about how we can make sure that the digital worlds and the physical worlds are more intertwined. Map data is essential to enable that. On the OpenStreetMap side, so we're going to get into Rapid in a second, but Rapid is a tool to improve OpenStreetMap. And OpenStreetMap, for those that don't know, it's a free and editable open map of the world, which means that anything that you see in the real world, you can add to OpenStreetMap. And even things that I guess you can't see in the real world, like borders that do have a physical impact on the real world, you can add as well. And so it can become a very detailed map of the world. You can think of it a bit like Wikipedia in the sense that anyone can contribute to it and thereby make it the most detailed map. And so in many places, it is the most detailed map. We're looking at New York here. You can see on the left-hand side, there's a park that's been incredibly well mapped by someone. It's got a lot of detail around the trees and the sidewalks and the benches and some drinking fountains. Very rich map in the top left. The points of interest information could be improved though. So that's something that we're working with the community to improve. And then you compare that to Google Maps, and that same park is lacking a lot of detail. Google does really well on the points of interest information, but the detail around the park is quite sparse. So Chris is going to talk in a second about how you can add some of that information using Rapid. OpenStreetMap is not just some fun, feel-good project. It is a very important piece of open source infrastructure. It's a very important open source database. So it's more than just a fun map. And I think an example of that is all the organizations using it. It started in 2004 and has just as a project from a university student in England, and it's really grown into something quite incredible that we're obviously using, Apple is using to build out its maps, Amazon, the World Bank, American Red Cross, companies like Maptiler, which build and helps to support map tiles that power a lot of different applications on your smartphone. And then Humanitarian OpenStreetMap, which is doing incredible work and which John has kindly volunteered to talk about today. So if you think about OpenStreetMap, it's really important to understand that there are 3 different kinds of data that you'd want to add to OpenStreetMap. And you can add these using tools like Rapid or some mobile editors as well. But you might want to add a point to the map, which could represent a place of business or a park bench, like I showed you in the previous image. You might want to add a line to OpenStreetMap, which would be things like a sidewalk or a river or a road or a bicycle lane. And then there are polygons, which are representing features like administrative boundaries or buildings or the area of a park. And by putting all these different geometries into the map, you start to build out a very useful and meaningful map that people can utilize. One of the really cool things about OpenStreetMap that I think makes it quite unique is this tagging system. So it has key equals value to describe the data that I just mentioned. So if you think about each of these points, lines, and polygons, any one of them that you add to OpenStreetMap can be described with tags. Every tag will have this key equals value. So it could be highway equals cycleway or surface equals asphalt. These are just examples of the tags. But you can create whatever tag you want. OpenStreetMap as a community is trying to develop some consistency around what tags. So if you're tagging a bicycle network, people do want you to standardize around highway equals cycleway, but there's a lot of diversity around the tags. So if there's maybe a feature that people haven't thought of, you can then go and describe it using this tagging structure. And you can go horizontally and add a lot of different types of tags. So for example, highway equals cycleway, and then maybe you add highway equals road for the, or highway equals primary road for the adjacent road. You can also go deep and add a lot of information about that particular feature. So surface equals asphalt, max speed. Here we have one way. You can add much detail to each of the features that you're thinking about. I'm giving you this context because Chris is about to show off Rapid Editor, and Rapid Editor is something that Meta built to improve OpenStreetMap. I mentioned that OpenStreetMap is obviously integral to our map building process, and we realized that there was the opportunity to make OpenStreetMap better, leveraging both machine learning and open data. And specifically, that means using the obviously the incredible advances in machine learning to identify features like roads and buildings. And OpenStreetMap lacked a lot of roads and buildings, particularly outside of major developed countries, where the community just hadn't had a chance to add roads and buildings in those locations yet. And you can think roads and buildings are very important parts of the base map, because roads or buildings rather tell you where people are located, so population centers, and roads tell you how they're connected to one another. And that's why you see a lot of humanitarian OpenStreetMap projects map these two things first. So we extracted these things from aerial imageries, roads and buildings, and we also host some other data sets from Microsoft and from Google, and we make that available so a human can review and add them to the map. We also have some great open data now that we're hosting from all sorts of city governments and cities, and companies. So things like footways, buildings, we have addresses, I think we have some trees in some locations. And these are just authoritative data sets that cities have agreed to open up for OpenStreetMap. And as a human, you can review it and add it to the map if it's correct, or if it's not correct, you can reject it. So it's all about mapping smarter, mapping faster. There are a lot of other good OpenStreetMap editing tools out there, but Rapid takes these latest advances in machine learning and also open data and allows you to be much more efficient and effective in your map editing process. We also have street level imagery, which we host. So Mapillary is another project that Meta supports. It's a street level imagery platform, crowdsourced, which means that anyone can capture street level imagery using a smartphone or 360 cameras. That imagery is uploaded to Mapillary. We process it and identify things like traffic signs and crosswalks and bicycle parking, things that are very useful to improve the map. And you can view that street level imagery as well as the map data alongside your OpenStreetMap data. So really encourage you to go to rapid.org, sign up. You can go through the walkthrough there, and we'll obviously share these slides online later via Geoawesomeness, so you can follow along with this. But I want to give it now to Chris. He's going to give a live demo, and please answer, or please ask questions in the chat as we go, and Chris can help to, he's got quite a few things he wants to show you, but he can also show you things that you might be curious about. So we want to make this interactive, and I'm going to pass it over to Chris now to show you what Rapid is all about.
All right, so let me share my screen. And yeah, that's rapideditor.org. So I shared that also in the chat. And let's take a look. So when you visit rapideditor.org, this is the welcome screen you'll see. There's some information about Rapid on the website here. But up at the top right, you can see the Start Mapping button. So if you click that, it will launch rapideditor.org/edit. And let's give that a second. Loads strange in my incognito, but I'll see. Oops. Let's see. There we go. So it'll pop up. It'll give you a welcome message. So you can click that you don't want to see this again. Say OK. It's just going to give you some latest information. So every time we make a new release, which is probably every month or so, you'll see some new updates on what new features to check out. So it starts out with this world map view. At the bottom right, there's a login button. So we'll click that. I've already signed up for OpenStreetMap. If not, you can click register now right here. But for me, I'll just log in, confirm my authorization. And now I can see my username at the bottom right and the logout button. So if you want to search for a particular place in the world, you can do it here. So I'm going to search for a small town in the mountains near me. Comes up with one result. And here we have the overview. So right now what you have is this kind of satellite image base layer. And that can also be something that you change around based on what's better for where you're trying to edit the map. So on this right side, there's a layer button. You can also push the B key on the keyboard to open it. And it will show you the different background options. So there's Bing Maps aerial. You can open the Mapbox satellite. It'll show you a different version of the satellite imagery. Where I am, I use the Swiss Topo aerial imagery. It's pretty high quality. So this is a very well-mapped place in the world. We can see the buildings in red, and there's a lot of other things. There's benches added as points. There's sidewalks added as lines. There are different roads. So if you click on a feature like this road, we can see it has a type. So it's residential road. It already has a name. The speed limit's already entered. It's not a one-way street. And if we knew more information, like how many lanes, we could add that. Sometimes you can see that from satellite. And there's different things like what's allowed on them. So this road allows everything from bicycles to horses to being on foot. And it also has lit checked because it has lighting. So this kind of information can be very detailed and help someone that consumes the data, like who's looking for roads that are lit during the evening and that allow foot traffic or bicycle traffic. So zooming in here, I can see, for example, an area that has kind of a footpath crossing through the grass. And I can start mapping that. So at the top, you have the point, the line, and the area options. So if I click line, I'm now in a draw mode. I can click on an existing sidewalk there to connect it. And then I can trace what I see in the satellite. So having traced that, I'll continue, connect it to the other side. I can choose a category, searching at the left, so footpath. I don't know if it has any name. I'm not sure of the surface. I can't see that, but if you live in the town, you're editing your town, you might know this extra information. And I can push the Q key, or if I right click, it will be square option. And that will make sure the lines are nice and straight there. And that looks like it matches pretty well with the satellite. So I've added that. If you scroll around the town, we can find things like, in this case, a restaurant. So it already has a name. It has Wikidata attached to it. If you're involved with Wikimedia, that's something that's interesting. And you can add different attributes to it. So a telephone number, website, internet information. You can add if it's accessible by wheelchair, and more things if you happen to know it, including the street address. And we can even add new points of interest. So if we know this town very well, maybe this building has a bakery in it. You can add it with point from the top button. It adds a blank point. Automatically, we can search over here. See bakery. And then it might have a name like local bakery. We can add that. We can say what the hours are. So it'll give you some default options. It might be that it's open Monday through Saturday. Maybe it's 7 a.m. till, let's say, 4 p.m. So we can add that in there. And you can even add the phone number if you know it. A great thing to do when you're out visiting the town is some restaurants, bakeries, and things have business cards, and it's good to take one of those with you and bring it to edit and wrap it to add the information. And also along here, we can see, for example, there's some sidewalk next to the road. So if we click on the road, we can see it doesn't necessarily say anything. Yeah, here in the bottom tags, it said there's sidewalk on both sides. So that's telling us about the road that has sidewalk, but you could also draw that sidewalk. So again, just tracing along the map, you can add it there. And in this case, the last one I said is a footway or footpath because it went through the grass, but this is on the side of a road. So as pavement there, I'll choose sidewalk as the type. It changes the color and pattern of that line. And then we know that this is a sidewalk. And additionally, there's a lot of other things you can do with areas. You can draw parking lots, you can trace farmland and put the type of crop. Many other options that are about physical geography, the built environment, any places of business. So let's take a look. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I think we're a little short on time.
No, I was just going to say that there's a great question on how to add buildings in areas where there's not. So I thought that might be a good one to demonstrate.
So let's go right into that. So I want to look at an area in the US. So I've clicked this rapid assist button at the top. That opens the catalog here. And I can use the default AI buildings from Microsoft. They're already added to the map. Or I can search this catalog for other parts of the world. So this area is in Colorado, Arapahoe County. I can click Add Data Set. And then OK. And it's now added to my list of layers. And it has a color selection there. So it's already yellow. I'll just change that. I like to have this purple color still. And then I can click Center Map here. So it will take me to that part of the world automatically. Now, the image layer that I had for Switzerland is not visible in the US. So I'm going to change my background over here on the right side tab to Bing Maps Aerial. There we see some satellite imagery. And let's zoom in. So this is kind of a rural area with farmland. You can see some buildings already exist in red. But as we scroll around, we can see these purple ones, and they don't exist, not yet. So the open data has recommended this building should exist. If I select it, I have the option to use this feature or ignore it if it doesn't exist. So I'll click to use this feature, and it automatically converts that to red for OpenStreetMap. And it looks like it follows the shape of the house on satellite imagery very well. If it doesn't, then we should adjust it. Then I can click area here, and I can also manually trace these other buildings. So I'll just click on each of the corners. I double click the last one. I'll search and just call it building. And then I can push Q on the keyboard to slightly straighten it out and get a square corner. So there we've added 2 buildings to the map. And if we search around, we'll also find some missing roads. So most of the major roads here that are paved have already been added. But you can see, for example, these are kind of more dirt track roads. Might also be important for accessing some things. Definitely depends on the field of work that you do. So if you work with geology, for example, or agriculture, this might be an important road for you to know for accessing some kind of facility or a different site. So you can click on the road segments as well. You can say, use this feature, and then you can adjust the shape of it as well. This is automatically calling it a service road. I'm going to actually change it to be a track or land access road. I think that's a good category. And this is something you can search. Just go to a search engine and search OpenStreetMap Wiki, or click the information icon here, and it will give you definitions of these categories, or you can look in the wiki for other categories. So same with the next road, we can use this feature. Again, automatically it's residential. We'll change this to a track road, keep it consistent. So there we've added this whole section, and we may want to adjust the shape of it to match the satellite some more. So finally, one other thing to look at, let's go back to this. Let's go back to the small village. If you don't have total context of what's happening on the ground. You're just looking from the satellite view. A really nice option here is you can see if Mapillary street level imagery exists. So on the side, the map data pane, that's the F key. You can find Mapillary and turn on the checkbox. And then here in green, we have these Mapillary images. And if we click one, it's going to actually open that image and we'll get a better view of what it looks like. So we can see things like the building here. That can help us add that this is 3 levels, which by default, it will have no information. If we zoom in quite a bit, we might see something about the shape of the road. Looks like this one has something built on it now. So that one we can see it doesn't match the map. So we might want to use this as a way to adjust something that changed over the past year or two. And very similar in other places, like this footpath, we can see there's a trash bin here. So we could actually add that to the map right where the path goes under this train track in the tunnel. It's a good reference. If I search trash, I'll see trash can, add it to the map. And we can even add something like the material is metal, and even something like the color can be added down in the tag. So we can say color equals green. So all kinds of details like that you have context with are great to add. And if you use Mapillary, your imagery that you capture with your mobile phone will appear after about 1 day in the OpenStreetMap environment here on Rapid. So that's a great way to add more context. All right, so I think that is all of our time for this. So I'll pass it off to John.